Hello, folks, and welcome to Walking on the Weene Side. And today, from across the pond, I have a very dear friend, Mr. Graham Sclater. Graham.
Hi, Ken. Nice to meet you.
And Graham, we're coming up on the holidays, the religious holidays, and I thought we should maybe talk a little bit about how the holidays are being affected in Great Britain by the change in population.
Right, good point. Very good point. Yeah. Okay, well, I mean, the big one at the moment, which everyone is talking about, is dropping, not everyone, but a lot of the organisations and manufacturers are dropping the word Easter.
Yeah, I saw that Cadbury was doing it. Cadbury eggs are not Easter eggs.
They're Easter everywhere. When you go to Germany, it's Osterhase, it's Easter hare. I mean, it's what it's about. I mean, it's a very religious time of the year, and probably more than Christmas in many ways, because of obviously what happened. But no, I think it's very wrong that we should, and a lot of the organisations and the Easter activities should actually have to drop, or it be expected to, not have to necessarily, but drop the word Easter from the events that are coming up next weekend. And I just don't see it's right. We had the same problem with Christmas. We now, on our stamps and on our Christmas cards, Christmas, unless you buy old cards, which you can buy in the reduced stores or whatever you want to call them, to the cheap stores, there's no Christmas on them. It's season's greetings. So I haven't seen an Easter card yet. We'll probably get some in the next day or two, but I'd be interested to see if it says Happy Easter on there, which is what it normally says, of course.
We should say, yes.
Yes, it's a holiday as well for us here.
Well, it's a holy holiday, if you will.
Yes, and a holiday, yeah.
Yes, and what do you think? Why do you think that is? What is happening to the use of terms like Merry Christmas, Happy Easter?
Well, what we've got, Ken, and the way I see it and perceive it now, we have within, and I'd say the government, it isn't strictly the government, but there are certain people who have a louder voice than the majority. And those people are now pushing for what we call PC. So we drop ladies and gents toilets. They're talking now about getting rid of Mr. Ms. and everything over here. That's the latest thing that's come up. They're just dropping all these things, and unfortunately no one is actually arguing it. They're just letting them get on with it and do it. I think people, to be honest, have given up with the PC brigade, how they're trying to change things, and we're saying, well, okay, what the hell? We don't say get on with it, but we have very little voice to actually prevent it happening, unless people really rebel up, which I don't think they would over a name, to be honest, or a word.
Well, but is it politically correct to ask the Christian population of Great Britain to give up wishing one another Happy Easter or Merry Christmas? How is that politically correct?
I agree. I
think
it's absolute madness. It's absolute madness. But there are people, I don't know what it is. There is some sort of undercurrent, Ken, that people are very nervous now. And because we, like a lot of countries, Germany more so than England, with over 1 million, immigrants or people that they've let into the country. But the police and everyone else are now afraid to do anything that might upset them. I mean, in London, there are certain streets at certain times of the day at prayer time when those streets are no-go areas for traffic, and the police actually stand by and will do nothing. They won't stop it, and they won't interfere as such. But they are terrified of interfering in something that could then be seen as racist. And that is very frightening. That is the bottom line, because we had it many years ago with black people here. The police still do, to a point, will stop black young men driving cars and things just to say, well, look, who are you? Let's see your ID. Are you carrying a knife, dealing in drugs? Which is a little bit over the top. But they did sort of victimise a lot of those people. And I think what's happened is over that period, the police now are very nervous. And because we have a lot of, and I say Muslims, we have a lot of people from outside of the Western world now who are now living here. jobless, most of them, because and I daren't say it, but they're not that well educated, if educated at all. So therefore, the jobs that people thought they would fill, they're unable to. And this is what's happened to Angela Merkel, of course, in Germany, because she thought, well, we'll increase the number of people and therefore we can increase the jobs and have more people to work and increase the GDP and everything else. The problem is that a lot of those that have gone there and have come to England are unable to speak English, which is a problem, but can be overcome. But they don't wish to speak English. They don't want to blend in with us. They want their own food. They want their own TV stations. They want their own prayer mats. They want everything that they want rather than integrating with us. And I think now what's happened is with Easter, this time, in the last few days, really has brought it to the fore once again. I think we're creating a problem ourselves by changing, in my opinion. But that's purely my opinion.
You think it would be more helpful if Britain stayed Britain and asked the people who were coming there to put more effort into assimilating?
Yes. Now, Exeter, where I live, is a very successful university city, at the top in the country. And we have a lot of Chinese and Japanese students here, mostly Chinese, who are fantastic. You don't even notice them in the streets. And I've been to Asia myself. I used to go to Korea. I'm used to Asian people. But in Exeter, and there are thousands, tens of thousands, you don't even notice them. They're polite. They don't cause trouble. They're bringing something to the city and they're bringing something to the country. But there are others, unfortunately, who've got no intention of working and think they have a right, once they're in the country, to expect what they want and not what really is available. They expect it for free.
Yeah. Does this in any way remind you of some of the stuff you've written in your books about people characters from your books?
It does to a point, yeah. I mean, one of my characters in Love Shack, Liam Riley, I mean, he was Irish, but he went to live in Amsterdam. And he, whilst he was down in, totally English and didn't want to speak Dutch and had no intention of speaking Dutch, at least he followed the rules. He was still English and very English, or Irish English, Anglo-Irish, very much like that. But having said that, he did follow the rules as much as he could and was able to. And if it was Easter, it was Easter. If it was a Dutch holiday, it's a Dutch holiday. He wouldn't say, no, it's not. You can't do that. So, yes, to a point I have done that. But I find it hard understanding how people expect to come here, don't want to integrate. And the politicians, and this goes back to your original question, the politicians, some of them, and the people who are always out there, the movers, shakers, they are the voice saying that we should drop the word Easter because it's going to offend these people. And that's where I think it is very wrong.
Now, it's very interesting to me because, of course, in this country, in the States, we are creating rather intense barriers against allowing people in. Although, of course, over the years we have allowed people in, and I have had a chance to see the kind of the balance reached between assimilation and accommodation. And of course, I grew up in the greater Boston area, and where we had waves of Irish who were and an Italian, and you kind of watch populations kind of duking it out as they reach this.
They always want their patch, don't they? Their territory. Yeah.
And everybody wants their culture and their way, their food, their language, their customs, traditions, at the price of the people next door. I guess that's kind of, and how do you reach that compromise?
Yeah, but I think I understand that, and we've done that here. We've got parts of, Coventry, Bradford, which is the Midlands as we call it here. 50% of the people there are from India or Pakistan, and it's like little Pakistan, little India. But interestingly, I saw some of the elders on television last week talking about people coming into our country, and they were saying, we don't want them in England, we don't want them in our country. But they were great because they had integrated with us. Mm-hmm. And they're successful. A lot of them have got restaurants and clothes manufacturing and all sorts of businesses. So they're very, very successful. But they are work. But the problem we have now is that a lot of the people that are coming in, mostly from Eastern Europe or Africa, sub-Saharan Africa, don't want to work. They think that everything is free. They've been missold, but they've been sold this dream. And unfortunately, it's what they believe. And we are not doing anything to break that dream or bring them give them reality of what should be and shouldn't be right.
Well, we're going to get back to that after a quick break. But folks, I know that we mentioned already one of Graham Sclater's books. I've had Graham on a few times to talk about his books. Just want to remind you a little bit. So we're going to play a book trailer now, and so you can check out one of his books, and we'll be right back.
Ultra-wealthy city financer Julian Hamilton Lufton has it all, but he chooses to abuse it. When he unexpectedly ends his illicit affair with a married woman, she is devastated and commits suicide. Will this provoke his earlier spurned conquest to return and wreak their revenge? This psychological thriller takes the reader to Seoul, the cosmetic surgery capital of the world, the financial world in the city of London, and deep into the underbelly of Bangkok and the world of the ladyboys. A chilling read. An intense and sophisticated thriller. Would revenge be sweet? Another well-plotted and researched novel from Sclater. More Than a Woman. The latest novel from Graham Sclater is available now from Tabitha Books or Amazon.
Welcome back to Walking on the Weene Side. I've been talking with Graham Sclater. You just got a chance to get a feel for one of his many wonderful books. You really do want to check out his work. And now I'm going to bowl him a little different pitch and see if he can strike it. You like that, folks? Here I am in the States, and I can talk a little bit of cricket. Cross language. Graham, one of the things that I've been very aware of, because we've been talking about people from sub-Saharan Africa, Middle East, Eastern Europe coming to England. Of course, they've also come here to the States. They also come to our neighbor up north, Canada. And Canada has had a very unusual experience in settling refugees. Very different from most other countries. Their refugees seem to adjust very well, seem to become very much a part of the Canadian landscape while retaining, obviously, some of their own unique ethnic past, as people should. I mean, you wouldn't want to come here and have to watch baseball instead of cricket or our version of football instead of...
It's balance. It's a balance.
So... What do you make of the Canadian experience? Why are they doing better?
Well, I was talking to a Canadian 2 weeks ago, strangely, in the jacuzzi at the sports club I go to. And he said, he knew more about England than I did, he knew about all the politicians. And he said, really, we're English. We're English. And the Queen, and he was talking about Trump, and he was talking about May and Germany, and he knew everything. He worked for the... I think he did work for the MOD or NATO or something like that, but he knew England very, very well. He was over here quite a lot. Mm-hmm. He seemed more laid back. And because it's a much bigger country, isn't it? Canada's huge. Small population as well. He was telling me a lot of things about it, but he loved the British, and he said, I'm as British as you are, which is very different than any American would say. So he did feel that, but how they've settled these people in, I'm really not sure. Maybe, I know the weather's extreme there, but then you get it in America as well, don't you?
It's much more extreme in Canada.
Yeah.
Especially much more extreme for, say, somebody from Syria. I mean... And yet
But-
they're
but
doing better there. And I think, I'll tell you what I've heard. The first thing is that when a Syrian refugee gets to Canada, they are pretty automatically assigned to not just a sponsor, but a group of sponsors.
Oh, right.
People who are taking them under their wing, helping them. And for the first year, they're doing it voluntarily, but for the first year of this new family's presence, they are making an effort. And that brings up something I saw about Germany recently, because you had been mentioning the issue in Germany, which is that in Germany what they have found is that the small towns, the Middle Easterners who are going to the small towns are doing incredibly much better. Their children are doing better in school.
Yes.
The people are doing better at getting jobs, and they are much more pro-Germany than the ones who are going to the cities.
But I think what Ken is in the big cities.
Just to continue that, up
in
in
the
Scotland,
big
same thing.
Yes, but when you go to the big cities, I don't know. There's a different feel to them, isn't there?
Yeah.
You can knock anyone on the head and get away with it. In a village, a small town, people will help you. But what happens is they're putting these into camps, of course, and putting them all together. And then, of course, they stir themselves up, so they build up this hate, if you like, for not having things. But if you actually split them up, we did it in the war over here. I mean, I wasn't around in the war, but people all over the country would take one or two children,
Right.
or a mother and a kiddie, or a father if he was elderly or unable to fight in the war.
Right.
And it integrated brilliant, because that's exactly what the Canadians have done, isn't it? They look after them, are living in their home, they're eating, they're helping them with the cooking, the washing, the ironing, the gardening, maybe helping the mum with a business or with a job, or
even
son.
figuring out what a brand of nappies is.
Exactly. So they're doing something. And I think the problem is that, and what the success of Canada is, that they're involving them and they're giving them something to do. But when you put hundreds and thousands in a refugee camp or in a ski hotel in the middle of Switzerland or somewhere where there is nothing at all, and no one really wants them there, and that could also be a reason, then things are not going to improve. It's going to be downhill. So by splitting them up, my sister fosters children. She's had 2 Eritrean girls for about 6 weeks. They've now gone. They're in the country. She had 2 Vietnamese girls who somehow arrived in England, and she's now got an Afghan. The cost of having those children in her home, they each have their own lawyer, barrister, guardian, social worker, translator. That's 5 things. Plus they have another person, another social worker. So there's 5 or 6 people, plus someone comes to the home to teach them English. Right. They have taxis to take them to school. They give them money for this. They want brand new mobile phones. They want new trainers. They want all the stuff. It's costing thousands. I reckon an average kiddie that my sister has will cost probably about $4,000 a week each. Mm-hmm. Now, I don't know how they got here, but they've all got the same story. You know, I was in France. I come from Syria. And my family were all killed. They've got no passport. They've got nothing. They're all, say, younger than they are, which isn't true, because that's now been proven. But they're in the wrong sort of place. It's the wrong reasons. And I think England is very small. It's a very small country, very tiny country. And where I live, there are 20, 30 houses. We've been here for 40 odd years. If we put a Syrian person in our street, I don't think people would take very kindly to it. But if it was someone who had maybe a business or was a tradesman who could use that person, train him up, look after him, nurture him, fantastic. But the way that the press and the media has promoted things, it's made it very, very difficult now for anyone. There was a young lad attacked, an Afghan refugee attacked in London, no, in the Midlands, last Thursday or Friday evening by 30 people. Mm-hmm. 30 people attacked this 17-year-old lad. It's almost gone too far, Ken. But I think maybe in Canada, they are treating it in a very different way. And I think if you target the families, the right mentors, people who are positive and prepared to make it work, then it would work. But I think here, and certainly in Germany, there are just too many to integrate into the system.
Too many and being too depersonalized.
Yes, very much so.
Yeah.
And being brainwashed before they got anywhere. That, I think, is probably the most important thing. When they're in France, in Calais, they get brainwashed there. They're told that to come to England, you can have everything you want. You'll have a car within a year. You'll have a house. And they expect it. And, once they get here, they've got a hell of a chip on their shoulder. And a lot of them are paid as well.
Folks, let's take another break here so that you can check out another one of Graham Sclater's fine books. And we'll be back in a moment.
The latest novel by author Graham Sclater is available now from Tabitha Books. It's 1812. Britain is at war with America. This historical novel follows a group of American prisoners of war captured by the British and transported to the notorious Dartmoor prison in Devon. The war ended in December 1814, but they remained prisoners, and following an attempted escape several months later, a massacre took place. Compulsive reading. It felt like I was actually there, a story waiting to be told. Hatred is the Key by Graham Sclater is available now from Tabitha Books.
Welcome back to Walking on the Weene Side. Graham, one of the things that we have to touch on here, because it is, we started with the subject of Easter. And, of course, by the way, Passover is coming too. And they don't always coincide, although, of course, historically they did. But one of the things about the whole Christian religion, one of the great myths, if you will, of Christian religion, is the Christmas story. And we have these two people who, while they were not from a foreign land, were in a sense were, because they were Nazarenes and they were traveling through the more traditional parts of the state of Israel, what was then Israel, and they need a place to stay. And of course, finally, they're given a spot in a barn. And so the question is, and I think this is a very important question for people in the United States, Great Britain, Canada, Australia, Europe, the developed countries, to what degree do we have a religious or moral obligation to take care of those who are less fortunate, those who are from more difficult times and places?
Well, I think we do have an obligation. Britain spends an awful lot of money around the world every year. A lot of it. A lot of it is in question now because it's going to places like India, who are spending millions on rockets and goodness knows what. And we've been given money to, I think, the Indian equivalent of what was the Spice Girls to do things. So I think the way that the funding, the money that we are, Britain, is sending abroad is not going to the right causes. Mm. But it's tens of millions of pounds every year. I think if we really want to make things work, you have got to get to the root cause in those countries. So you almost go back to helping them in their own countries. Because if we can keep them there, i.e. by setting up small businesses, cooperatives, getting them to look after themselves, grow their own food, water, schooling, and things like that, gradually businesses will grow. Because if you think of a lot of African countries, the marketplaces are fantastic. You know, they're growing things, selling things, buying, selling, manufacturing. That could all happen, but because of the globalism that's gone on, you know, China has really taken over everything that is And everything you buy is made in China. But if we really wanted to ease the problem, it's re-education of the people at source. Keep them where they are rather than letting them travel across the world. They've got to learn another language. They've got to get used to the culture. They don't understand Christmas. They don't understand Easter. They think that everything is a given. And it's gone too far. I think if we were to help them more, but you need a concerted effort. And I think the money that Britain pays and other countries pay is really piecemeal. They're just sort of having a go. It's just, oh, let's send some money over and it will get sorted. It needs to be managed, but I don't think, in all honesty, Ken, the will is there with the right people. A lot of the charities, my daughter set up a Dementia Alliance here in Exeter, and I do a lot of that work with her. The Alzheimer's Society, which is the UK head company of it, in all honesty, all they want to do is generate income as a charity to pay their executives. Right. And a lot of these companies, Oxfam and people like that, and they'll probably get shot for it, but, the money doesn't go where it should. And I think there is no real will there. There are people, wonderful people, who will go abroad and they'll help to build schools and educate people and things like that, but they are in the minority. And I think if we really want to sort out the world, and I mean the world, in a positive way, is to look at some of the globalization that's going on and say, look, hang on, let's just spend a generation and help those countries. Let's train them. Let's teach them. Let's just help them to do their own thing, because they're able to do it and they're capable of doing it, but of course they don't have the money to do it and they haven't got the expertise. It's in there, but it needs to be, like anything, it needs to be brought out to get them to achieve what they could achieve.
Yeah, but of course we also then have to deal with the problems in those countries.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
For example, in Syria, it isn't an absence of capabilities inside. I mean, how do you deal with a country that's totally divided into little pieces of warring faction? Or in South Sudan, where, of course, I've been working, just finishing up memoir, which you have read an advanced copy of, with my friend Deng Atem, where we talk about that country. And meanwhile, you have tribal warfare going on. In Nigeria, we have these horrible divisions. In what was Congo, we have horrible divisions. Can we find a way to go into these countries that are so riven and find ways to help them to find a common ground, to invest in a way that they can find a common ground? So, say in South Sudan, and where and a Denka and somebody from another tribe can all be working together in the same business and doing something worthwhile.
I think, and it's in the back of my mind, I remember reading something recently, and it wasn't your memoirs, but the memoirs you were doing, but it was where tribes actually worked together for a while. But there's always someone within those tribes that really wants to control the other tribe.
Yeah.
And you cannot breed that out of them. It is always there. If you look at the Yugoslavia and the problems there with Bosnia-Herzegovina and all those places over in that immediate area, they're killing each other because there's always a leader somewhere who still wants to maintain his leadership and his hierarchy. So where you've got Africa, tribes everywhere, they're all tribes. And Middle East are all tribes, for goodness sake.
Mm-hmm. Hey,
yes,
the Scots aren't so happy about being there with the English.
No, they're not. But that's a lot of smoke and mirrors with our dear friend Nicola Sturgeon there. The German, I heard today from a few Scottish people, who actually said to me that they do not want a second referendum. They do not want to leave England. They want to be part of it. And she's got her own agenda there.
Yeah, but the same thing.
Yeah.
There's always a few leaders.
Exactly. So how, and if you kill the leaders, you will always get others that will come along. It's like we have with the IRA in Ireland, There is always another leader. Saddam Hussein, there's always another leader. Gaddafi, when they get rid of him, there's always someone else. And it is tribes. And it's tribalism. I mean, I remember here when I was a kid in Exeter, we had little gangs of people. We still got gangs in London, you know. This gang won't let these people walk down their road.
Mm-hmm.
So it's within human nature, unfortunately. So I think if the leaders of the tribes were honestly prepared to let it happen, then yes, things could improve. But the Sudan is another place, and Yemen, where they're fighting each other.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And unfortunately, I dare say this, that there are people with money in the world who like these people to be fighting each other because they're selling them arms and they're controlling it. So they set it up. They set the fight up. They're the promoters, if you like, of the trouble in those countries.
So in this time of trouble and many problems in the world, it is good to sometimes remind ourselves that we are all more nearly human than otherwise, and that may be the most essential message of Easter, not a specific religious message for one faith. Because if you believe that there is, in fact, a creator God in the universe, that God is not about one faith, that God is about the universe. And
that's right, but what you've got, though, Ken, is the different religions, unfortunately. It's their own gang,
like
isn't
tribes.
it?
Like tribes.
But again, it's terrible to say, but they have. No, I think Easter is Easter is a time. It's our best holiday over here because it's next week and it's April time, and it's the only real holiday where families actually have at least 4 days together. At Christmas, you're going from one family to the next, to the next, to the next. So, and it's winter time. It's the darkest days of winter. So therefore, you're not enjoying the outside. But if the weather's good here, then Easter is a great time because down here on the coast we get inundated with tourists, which is fine. But people have time to spend together, and it's generally it's at least 4 days, and that is the best time for holiday of the year, in my opinion. And people do get together. You do have time to go to church, and you do have time to do a bit of the leisure activities that people want.
So whether you're in Britain or the United States or Canada or Australia, wherever you are, folks, as Easter is upon us, why don't we remember that it is a wonderful time of year to think of others and to think about caring. And I don't know about you, Graham, but I have absolutely no problem in wishing all our listeners a joyous and blessed Easter. And for those who happen to be of the Jewish faith, I also want to wish them a joyous Passover.
Yeah, and happy Easter from me in England, and Passover also, yeah. And I hope you all enjoy it and have as much fun as you want with your Easter eggs.